Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca and I redesign old thrifted items and I show you step by step how to do it. Through my channel, I hope to inspire you to use secondhand materials to make your own unique clothings. In today's video, we are going to make a 50s inspired dress and it's going to look a little bit more on the glamorous side. Red carpet dress. We are using an old curtain to transform into this dress, and it is a very shiny and beautiful curtain with flower print on it, so it looks very glamorous, and that is why I was inspired to make this glamorous 50s dress. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start by taking the pattern, and I'm using the pattern I made in my pattern making video. I will link it down below. We're going to use the sweetheart neckline pattern, and I'm starting to interface all the pattern pieces on the outer fabric and I'm cutting them out. After that, I'm cutting also 2 sets of bodice in a lining fabric as well. And here I'm just using a cotton fabric that I've had laying around in my fabric stash. So start off by sewing the lining together, and I'm starting with the bust area and sewing it together. And then I'm sewing the side seams together. And lastly, I'm sewing the back panels together. After that, I did that with the other sets as well. And then I pressed the seams opened. I also cut some slits around the bust area so that the seams curved nicely when I pressed it. For the last bodice piece, we're not going to press the seam open, but we're folding it over and sewing a top stitch to make a casing for a boning that we're going to add on now. I'm using plastic boning, and this is just to give the bodice more hold so that it holds up nicely and so that you don't have a dragging bodice. After I have inserted the boning, I am placing the lining over the boning, wrong side facing each other, and then the outer bodice piece right side facing the lining. And then I'm cutting a small slit in the middle of the sweetheart so that it folds over nicely and crisp. Then I'm sewing a support stitch on the lining piece so that it stays nicely in place. And then I'm just pressing the bodice nicely and flat. I'm decorating it with small flowers, and I'm going to show you how to do this later on. So now we're going to make the skirt, and I'm making a half circle skirt. So you're just measuring your waist, dividing it by 3.14, and then you have the diameter that you can make the waist circle from, and then you're adding the length that you want. And then I'm sewing the back panels as well on the skirt and serging all the edges and pressing the seam flat and open. Next, here I have already decorated the bodice, as you can tell, and now I'm going to connect the skirt with the bodice piece. And I'm only sewing the skirt to the outer fabric of the bodice. And here I'm starting to work on the lining on the skirt, and I wanted to make a ruffle cape along the bottom of the lining skirt. So I'm just making a long cape of ruffle and I'm adding it to the skirt of the lining here. And the lining is the same pattern as the outer skirt of the dress. So I'm sewing the ruffle cape on and I'm serging the raw edges, and then I'm sewing the lining onto the inner bodice piece. I decided to add another ruffle cape because it made it fuller. And for the back, we're going to attach a zipper. So I'm opening an invisible zipper and I'm sewing it to the one side of the dress only to the outer fabric, and then on the other side of the dress. And then I'm closing up the bottom by sewing it from the bottom of the zipper down to the hem of the dress. Pressing the seam flat and open and making sure that there is no bumps in the end of the zipper. Then we're going to fold over the lining over the zipper, and we're going to sew it together so that we have a nice finish on the inside. Then you can go ahead and flip the dress out so that the zipper is hidden in between those layers. Here you can see it's very nice and no raw edges on the inside of the dress. So I'm just closing up the bottom of the lining and pressing that seam open as well. And now we're going to hem the dress. And here I'm using horsehair braid because I want more structure on the end of the skirt. And I'm just sewing it as close to the edge of the skirt as possible. And then we're going to fold it over afterwards. But this gives a very nice structure to the dress, and it makes it more full at the bottom. So after that, you fold the horsehair braid over, and then you just iron the hem flat and nice all the way around. And then you can sew this, attach this by hand, and you're just going to sew by picking up a little bit of fabric on the outer skirt and then a little bit of the horsehair braid and sew along the hem. And for the lining, I just serged the bottom and then I folded it up one time. And here I made a bunch of circles from a satin fabric that I actually just used my lighter to burn the edges so that it doesn't fray. And then I fold them and I sew them in place on the dress, picking up a little bit of fabric and sewing through the flower 2 times, and then I open up the circle, and now it looks more like a flower because it has been folded inside. Then I just picked some small beads and I threaded them onto my needle, and I also sewed them onto the flower, making a little detail in the middle of the flower. The holiday is coming up, and this dress would definitely be a showstopper if you are going somewhere fancy this year. So since the holiday season is coming up and getting closer and closer, the last 4 years I have had a Christmas market here in my sewing studio where I sell things that I've made over the year, and I was wondering if this is something interesting for you guys to watch while I prepare for the Christmas market, because I have a lot of things that I'm going to sew for it. Okay, I'll show you. Okay, this is what I usually sell when I am arranging my Christmas markets, and I am wondering if this would be interesting for you guys to watch, and maybe I will make a series out of this where I just sew a bunch of things that I'm going to sell. Stuffed animals, I make them matching pillows, duvet covers, makeup bags in secondhand materials, which is what I usually do. I sew things out of thrifted materials. These smaller ones, I've made a bunch of them and I make matching clothes. So if you think that this would be interesting to have a full video or maybe even a series during November or something where I prepare my Christmas market, maybe decorating in my sewing studio, which is what I always do, cozy series on my YouTube channel, would that be something you guys would want to watch? Ooh, and I also make dresses for the stuffed animals so that they can be dressed up, and I make them small sleeping bags that you can carry them around, which is a very fun gift to give to someone, for a kid or a niece or something. That's it for today's video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you will give it a try. And please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed my video and subscribe to my channel for more content. And also hit the bell notification if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video. I post new videos every Thursday.